Dave, as an author who's been literally writing about the industry for the last 20 years, several books, what do you think are the prevailing trends in legal services right now?
Yeah, really at the end of the day, it's going to be how do people innovate in legal services to make a difference. Let me make one quick point for you. Most lawyers can't really figure out how to innovate based upon their training in law school. Originally, you were probably trained the same way I was, right? What did we do? We read cases.
Lots of them.
Lots of them. We looked at the case facts and we said, let's look in the rear view mirror. Let's look at these case facts to find out what decision we're going to make going forward. I call that looking in the rear view mirror. However, the lawyers that are going to win and get a book of business in today's environment, where are they looking? They're not looking in the rear view mirror. Where are they looking? They're looking out the front windshield to determine where is the legal services business going. And at the end of the day, here's one thing I know from studying the industry over a couple decades, Ridgely. It's all about one thing, book of business. If I maintain a big book of business, I am a winner inside the legal services industry. Now, how do you go about getting that book of business? To me, it's a couple things in today's environment. First thing is, I got to bring the right mindset. How am I viewing the world? Am I bringing my entrepreneurial thinking to the legal services industry? Again, looking out that front windshield, not looking in the rearview mirror. And secondly, most lawyers are stuck in the status quo, not very comfortable with change, right? And so what it's really about is those lawyers that can think like an entrepreneur and can effectively manage change. What are they going to get? A massive book of business.
No, I love the way that analogy to me is super clear, because you're right. When I was in law school, I was tugging around these big, huge volumes. In fact, I lost my 20/20 eyesight reading those books right at law school, right? And it was all about looking back to try to figure out the future as opposed to looking forward and trying to determine where are we going, what does that look like?
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about the dynamic as part of managing change, the dynamic of needing to shift from a profession to a business.
Yeah. What's amazing to me is in legal services, here's the number one thing I know. People buy from people that they like to create a relationship. That's the number one thing. They're not buying from a law firm. They're not buying the law firm. They're buying a single lawyer at that law firm. And here's the analogy I like to use, Ridgely. Everyone here has probably bought a song on Apple iTunes, right? I remember the days, obviously, when all you could buy was a CD or an album. You had to buy many, many songs. That was equivalent, right, to buying the entire law firm. Here's what we're seeing in legal services. Just like in the music industry with iTunes, you're able to go in and select a single lawyer that happened to be at a law firm. Just like Apple iTunes, we're seeing an incredible disruption inside legal services. Just like we saw in the music industry. Why? Because people are able to buy relationships, a single lawyer. So that's the first trend I kind of take a look at. There's a couple other things I'd like to talk about is it's really about that entrepreneurial mindset, and it's governed by three things, just like every other industry. How do I do things better? How do I do them faster? And how do I do them cheaper?
Right.
And that's really what lawyers need to be focused in on to drive things going forward.
So what you're saying in so many ways is that the better, faster, cheaper involves knowing, okay, practicing law is one thing, delivering legal services as a business professional is an even broader, the practice of law has to fit inside the efficiencies that are now being dictated by the marketplace as being 100% necessary or else.
There's no doubt about it. When you move from a profession to a business, you're governed by the same things, and that's what's happening with legal services. You better be able to bring that right entrepreneurial mindset there.
And so tell me, well, let's talk about this a little further then. Tell me a little bit about how are people buying legal services now? I mean, you mentioned the one song versus the full album. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is I find a big split in the marketplace between large law firms and the customers that they serve, big companies, smaller law firms, and the customers that they serve, individual lawyers. Here's what's interesting. I've never seen an industry where it was what I would call supplier-led. Usually, it's who has the money, really dictates the terms of how they get their services delivered.
The golden rule.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man with the gold rules.
Exactly. And what was amazing to me over the last couple decades as I studied it, the legal services industry was a supplier-led industry. Absolutely amazing. What did they do? They were able to raise rates 6 to 8% every year, regardless of the value that they were creating. And so what we've seen is a dramatic shift from a supplier-led environment to a buyer-centric environment. So large corporations are going, well, wait a minute, I'm not going to allow runaway rates here. I'm going to take a little bit more control over my purchasing decision. Now, how are they doing it? A couple different ways. No different than anyone else, they're using technology. What are they doing? They're looking at all the data that they have and they say, we're going to purchase services a little bit better. So now they're looking at how costly it is. And the other thing that they're doing is they're leveraging their purchasing or their procurement department. They're going down the hall and knowing that that purchasing department says, hey, we know how to buy steel, we know how to buy supplies. Legal services is no different in the purchasing department's mind. Let us help you buy legal services. And you know what's interesting, Ridgely? At the end of the day there, it's all then going to be about relationship. How do you differentiate yourself? And so that's what you see really from the large law firm standpoint and the purchasers of corporate legal departments.
So, I mean, I'm not sure I've ever thought about it. I mean, I grew up in a family of lawyers. My dad was a lawyer and I'm a lawyer. And it never really occurred to me that in my dad's time, he was the big man. I mean, he was the big boss and he was the lawyer and he told people, and if you needed a corporation, it's not like you could do it on the internet. You just showed up and stroked him a check and then he did something behind the scenes that you didn't quite know. And he dictated, you're right. That's how it used to be. But it is not like that anymore. And what about small firms?
Well, absolutely. Probably just similar to your dad, there's been a dramatic shift in how consumers or clients come to their lawyer. I always like to analogize it with WebMD or what other portal you may use to get your information on medical diseases and the like, and what are the treatments to them. So a lot of patients, where do they go? WebMD, then they go see their doctor. And they're having a dialogue with their doctor that is dramatically different than it was 20 years ago. The same thing is happening in legal services. You can go to LegalZoom, get the forms that you need. You can incorporate yourself on the internet, and you have access to information that was previously only in the domain of the lawyer.
Right.
So now you come in armed with all of that,
right,
and the lawyer then has to add value to that.
Right, and that's part, again, about relationships.
Absolutely.
Finding a way to differentiate yourself from everybody else. Well, talk to us a little bit before we wrap this up in terms of what do you think are the most important future trends looking forward through the front windshield, not the back rear view mirror.
Absolutely.
Okay.
A couple things. I like to use Apple. As we know, we talked about iTunes. You know, Steve Jobs was famous for that one ad, think different. At the end of the day, what I think every lawyer needs to do is adopt, like we talk about in the book, the Apple methodology, right? Not only to think different, but be different. And that's going to be the biggest challenge for a lot of lawyers going forward. So I'll give you one more analogy before we close. When I wash my hair every day, I have my shampoo bottle in there. Everyone probably knows what the directions on that shampoo bottle say. Lather, rinse, repeat. Lather, rinse, repeat, right? I think the mantra going forward in legal services is a little bit different and a little bit more complicated. It's innovate, implement, repeat. Innovate, implement, repeat. And really, how are you going to get that work done? That's what it's all about.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Innovate, implement, repeat. Talk to us a little bit more about what do you see there?
Well, let's think about it. You know, how do you innovate in terms of how you position yourself? How do you build those relationships? To me, one thing that we've talked about in the book is how do you understand your why and message that to the marketplace? That's a dramatic innovation.
Huge. I agree.
Dramatic innovation. And if you can take that, then you go to implement it, right? And how do you go about implementing it?
Right. Right. You then take it and you decide, okay, I need to take my why, my message that differentiates me from everybody else, and I need to reach more people. That's the implementation part. In other words, I've differentiated myself, but people need to see the message, they need to feel that message, they need to experience it in order for me to attract clients.
And then we got to repeat it.
Right.
Lather, rinse, repeat, right? And to me, that's what it's all about, because the last acronym I'll give you is this people, process, and technology, right? We talked about legal services moving from a profession to a business, being governed by, hey, how do we deliver services better, faster, cheaper? It's really through people, process, and technology, and think about it. The people is how you build relationships, right? The process, how do I go about reaching more people, like you had just talked about?
On the web.
And then at the end of the day, it's using that technology on the web, leveraging the social web to have that machine continue to bring you more and more clients going forward. So for me, the future has never been brighter for any lawyer coming out if they truly understand the power of the social web and how to leverage it. It's an amazing opportunity for any lawyer at this time to build a book of business, to transfer the power to them to drive their career forward. Pretty exciting times, Ridgely.
You know, I love the way that we referenced a number of different things in here from the book in terms of the people, process, technology, which is the people is establish the relationship by defining your why and creating that message that relates to people. And then the process is get that out there, leveraging the technology, which is the internet, that brings all those people back to you. And at the end of the day, that's exactly what everybody that's watching this video needs to do. They need to take advantage of the teachings in this book, the strategies that are laid out there for everybody to use, and all the tools that you can use to build yourself a machine that does the people, process, technology process, and then goes innovate, implement, repeat, innovate, implement, repeat. And obviously, if anybody would like to get some extra help on how to do that, then sign up for our Why Marketing Formula online course below, where we will walk you through the process, shortcut your learning, eliminate the risk of mistakes, all that kind of stuff. And if you just go, I get it, I want to innovate, I want to implement, I'm ready to repeat, but actually, I'd like you guys to do it for me. I want you guys to just handle it. Then just pick up the phone, make a quick call, set up an appointment to talk to one of our Why Business consultants to see through a strategic session if we can actually help you out. If we're the right fit for you, we would love to be able to serve. And as I continue to preach, hopefully not as an overused mantra, there's only one thing that cannot be a part of any discussion when it comes to leveraging yourself through the internet, and that's to do nothing. Now that you know what's happening, you know what's going on out there, that's the only option that must be removed. It's got to be off the table. You got to do something if you want to compete in the future. So either do it yourself, get some help, or let us do it for you. Those are the three kind of options. Any one of those is great. And in the do-it-yourself process, you have the book that we're giving to you. So please take advantage of it and let us know if there's any way that we can be of service. Thanks for watching.